Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry for the short delay, but we have a problem. The next performance cannot be presented. How do I put this? Something has come up unexpectedly. Normally, we have an understudy who can step in, but we usually only have one of those, and that's not going to work today. You see, all three actors are unavailable. They, at last report, they are on their way to jail. All of them, and the director, and I think even the stage manager. I am the only one left here because I physically couldn't do the protest march because I have an ingrown toenail. I might as well tell you, since we don't have a newspaper until Wednesday. Oh gosh, and by the time everyone starts ranting and raving about it online, all the details will be screwed up. Last night we wanted to do our final rehearsal in front of a live audience, to get a feel for reaction. So we had made arrangements to go to the senior assisted living facility, thinking there'd be a couple of night owls that would be willing to watch our show. When we got there, all the drapes were shut. The lights were out, but the door was open. So we went in and it was jammed. I'm talking wall to wall old folks. They were everywhere. And the atmosphere was very mysterious. It turns out they were having a secret meeting. And not just the people who lived there, but they were joined by a whole bunch that came over from the Mullis Senior Center too. Now, they were all wearing masks, so it was really hard to tell what they were saying, but we finally found out they were using our coming to perform as a cover for something else. Yeah. They were fed up with being quarantined since almost mid-March. Okay, well, we finally settled them all down so that we could start. And one little old lady, she tips her mask down and she yells as loud as she could. "Excuse me, dears, could you please do Mary's on the Ferry?" And then a couple of other gentlemen yelled out, Yes, we'd love to see Mary's on the Ferry." I guess they had seen this performed at a previous Playwrights show. We had to admit to them that we had never heard of it. But the play we were going to do was full of travel and discovery. Maybe that would do. I'm so sorry. I know I'm getting a little off track, but what you need to realize is that all the talk that we had in our play about travel and the freedom to go places, it riled the group up so much that we're not even sure how well our play went. All we knew is we were looking at the most harmless bunch of old people, all huffed up and ready to go. And that is when Suzanne McWilliams put her foot into things. She is the lead actress in our play. The one that you're not seeing. And those of you who know Suzanne know that she is up for almost anything radical. She must have thought she had a good idea when she said, "Why don't we all go hop on the local ferry and travel around the islands?" If you've ever seen a snowball roll down a steep hill, that's what happened there and then. Let me tell you, if you want to set a plan in motion, just give it to a bunch of seniors. They thought of every crafty detail, hitch, and loophole. You'd have thought they used to write tax manuals for the IRS. One big problem, though. Getting 50 people down to the ferry dock, since COVID regulations limit groups to 5. Well, here, Suzanne, our leading lady radical, calling on her years of campus protests, stood on a chair and announced, "We can all go to the ferry dock as a protest march. You can't put a limit on the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Well, they must have stayed up all night making their signs. No visitors, no hugs, all testing, no fun. You can't teach an old person new norms. And that is how the protest march that went down Spring Street this morning came about. Now, here is where things get a little blurry. They all got onto the ferry just fine, their signs and all. Since most of the other passengers stayed in their car, the upstairs turned into one big senior center. The ferry crew, they actually got into the spirit of the occasion and they put up a microphone so that everybody could hear. And along the ferry route, they shared stories about ferry travel, sailing the Puget Sound, wildlife sightings, and just island living. The experience was so beautiful, somebody could write a play about it. Anyway, over the PA, the announcement came, Friday Harbor, all passengers must disembark. Well, that voice of authority must have reignited the flames of protest, because almost like one voice, like the Mormon Tabernacle Choir without singing lessons, they started chanting, one more round, let's go, one more round. Now, I am not sure exactly what happened next, but with all the chairs on the passenger deck, they had a real sit-in. Yes, they knew two things. One, their Constitution, and two, there was no way the sheriff was going to arrest all those seniors sitting in chairs and to carry them down 2 flights of stairs one by one. Now, the sheriff and his deputies, they showed up. The ferry staff, they got involved. And I guess Suzanne got in a tiff with the sheriff, questioning his authority on a piece of Washington state property. The sheriff, he couldn't get a ruling from the county prosecutor because he was on Orcas. So everything got really confusing for quite some time until the ferry captain, he gave 5 blasts of the foghorn. That's seaman warning language for, I can't figure out what you're doing. Usually reserved for tourists, if you know what I mean. Anyway, over the PA, the ferry captain says, well, what's all the ruckus? I'm going that way anyway. So, it appears that our seniors were successful because I just heard the ferry leave. They are still out there riding around, enjoying the fresh air and freedom for a little while longer. Like until dinner time. Or pill time. Anyway, it didn't take long for the deputies to sort things out. So, they cuffed our leading lady, Suzanne, at her request. And just as they were hauling her off to jail, the rest of our cast and crew decided to join her in jail, in protest to her going to jail. So, that is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to stick around to the end of our show to see if we get a cast and crew back, that would just be fabulous. Thank you so much for coming. And please, stay well.